Hey everyone, Connor here from Kamerastore.com, back with another edition of our weekly Q&A, joined again by Nico. As usual, last Friday, we gathered some questions from Instagram and YouTube, and now we're going to answer them. So questions about cameras, film, repairs, our store, everything we do here.
Okay, let's go ahead. We have Sky004 with what the hell is Canon sticky shutter?
Yeah, Canon sticky shutter is a pretty common ailment that affects lots of Canons from the late 80s into maybe even into the 2000s. Canon used a foam in the mirror box of these cameras that over time deteriorates and gets onto the shutter blades. You can notice it'll look like a little black mark on the shutter. It'll get worse over time, even if you clean it, because the foam is not coming from the actual shutter blades. So if you just clean the blades, more foam will get onto it. Eventually, it renders the camera pretty much inoperable. It can take a while depending on how much you shoot. But yeah, we are pretty careful with cameras with that. We sell them as not passed if that happens.
Yeah, basically what happens is the shutter, like the gunk gets in the shutter, and you notice it first like a little droplet almost of oil. And like Connor said, you clean it, you're like, oh, that's good to go. We've done it here at the store, but we know that you shoot 3-4 rolls more, depends on the heat, obviously conditions.
Yeah.
And it starts spreading to the point that it is gunky enough that it will, I guess like the shutter suffers maybe more due to the extra stickiness. Exposures might be affected and stuff like that. So unless you like disassemble the whole thing and change it and clean it, which most times in these plastic fantastic SLRs, it's not worth it. You're just, it's going to die eventually. So look out for that when you are purchasing one of these SLRs, plastic SLRs.
Yeah, if you're ever buying a Canon SLR, open the back up and look at the shutter. I had a T90 that I would clean it every single roll, and then by the end of the roll, it would be totally gunked up again. It just happens.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next question. Super Felix 5000. Are you planning on having a repair service at your shop so people can send you their cameras for repairs? We always want to. It's something that we comment here from the company side all the time, but our problem is due to the fact that we are different in the way we operate as a store than most people understand most times. Like, we check every camera that comes in. We classify if they're fixable or cleanable or ready to be listed or spare parts. And by doing this, we ensure that we are not only giving the best offer to the person selling it, like, the real diagnostics of their gear, but also to the buyer. And when we do so, we find a lot of things that are wrong. So it can be the sticky shutter we just mentioned. It can be shutter speeds are out of tolerances, and brands used to be plus minus 30%, for example, in exposures, or the aperture blades on a lens have oil, or they're uncalibrated, or anything. Any of these problems that are very common in film photography gear that's getting old and used, and that makes it to go to the repair queue. Due to this, our repair queue has been growing steadily. We're currently at around 6,000 items. And even though we're training mechanics, and our mechanics are working non-stop to do these services to the cameras we already bought, we can't really open the door for this because cameras that we bought that are broken need repairs. If we start taking in customer service, it really slows down our queue. It would just grow exponentially, and that is in a way cash flow being frozen into our repair queue, which in the past has been great because cameras were cheap and prices have gone up, but now that prices are stabilizing, it can be a problem if things start going down and our repair queue is worth less, even though we're putting more money into it. So it's a complicated solution there, but we would love to, but we currently can't, I guess is the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there aren't enough mechanics going around, or at least in our company, to be able to do that and service the amount of gear that we need to sustain our own store. So to put it really objectively financially, we sort of can't afford it, I guess.
And we have more mechanics than I don't think there's any other place in the world that currently has more camera mechanics than we do. But the operation grows, and the more we buy, the more it needs repairs, and the cameras get older. So it's not we don't probably see the end of this towards giving service to cameras from customers.
Yeah.
The best solution we've always given is, yeah, you can sell us your camera that's not working great and you can buy a working one. Obviously, the price difference is big because mechanics need to get paid and the store needs to keep operating, and we're investing in spare parts and, you know, teaching. So the difference from your broken FM3A might be $100 because it's broken. Like this one has a shutter that you can put your finger through, and then buying one is $1,000 plus currently in the 2023 price.
Yeah.
So you might be like, that's a lot of money, but if you into account that most of them are serviced, then maybe it's worth it. Like every X amount of time you can, you know, sell the one that's not doing great or find service places, but there's not many left. Then we have Edwin Sandstorm. How does the shutter speed dial control the shutter speeds on mechanical cameras?
This might not be the best camera for us, or the best question for us to answer, because we're not mechanics. So why don't we go and get one of the mechanics and ask them?
That's actually like pretty difficult question to answer short, but it like fundamentally differs on like depending on what type of shutter you have. So for example, on focal plane shutter, the first curtain always moves like the same speed, and then it controls like how fast does the second curtain follow the first one mechanically.
So it's like the distance between, or I guess the time between releasing the first one and then releasing the second one.
Yeah, like between the interval, and then the fast speeds are like they're actually starting at the same time, but just the slit width is different, like the gap between the curtains.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. We did a video with Smarter Every Day where he learned about how mechanical cameras work, and he showed with a slow motion camera how the slit on a Leica shutter works. It's kind of a cool video. We can link it in the description below.
But basically, like how fast does the second curtain follow the first one is how they control it.
Wow, that certainly was the appropriate answer for that question. Thank you, mechanic.
Joe Caffrey. What happened to the Q&A over the last year?
I guess it's my fault a little bit. Yeah, it's my fault. So I used to do Q&As on Instagram, if you aren't familiar or watching only on YouTube, for a while. And then I actually got promoted to a management position. And so I really didn't have time to be spending a whole day or half a day on Instagram. So that was what happened. And then after a year, we sort of reassessed again. And now there's time for a bit more of a focus on content for me. So that's why I came back.
Yeah, I think the store in the past year and a half to 2 years has changed a lot. And in that, it has been more structure. We have teams now. We have team leaders. We have middle management and upper management and all this stuff. And that has created a, you know, resetting some things. Like content was something that Connor was doing on his own. There was no real direction. He was doing content. That was all we knew that we needed. And now we've kind of like tried to structure a bit more of what content we want to put out. And another one is making it on YouTube. Even though Instagram is the platform we have the most people following us, YouTube is one that's not only searchable, but it like lives longer. And we want to try to help the community the most we can. And Instagram is not really searchable. There's no really ways to find like questions that you might have, and YouTube does, thanks to their search engine. So I think the way it's coming back should be better for everybody. Obviously, there's less people watching us on YouTube, but I think overall throughout the years it might help more people in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, your questions that are coming through Instagram or YouTube are really helping us know what to say, and we're doing small reels to answer the most interesting questions that we think can help, and so on. So, you know, it's getting there. It's what we call internally Q&A 2.0. There might be a 3.0 sometime. Okay, we have Sim Musket. Any lenses that will fit onto the X700, and this is the Minolta X700.
Yes. We have lots of them on our website, if that was what the question was. So you can go on our website and use the search bar at the top to search for Minolta MD. And there's what we call a collection that'll appear on the right side of the search bar. That'll show you basically everything for that system. and then you can use our filter system to just find lenses. There's probably a few hundred for Minolta MD, everything from fisheyes to ultra telephotos.
Reflex lenses,
Yeah.
mirror lenses. Also, one thing, Connor has been doing the how to use, and he made a video on the X700, which there's an article on our blog, which is kind of hidden on the website, but you can find it. And on the YouTube channel, you have the Minolta X700 video. That could help you understand the body, but also the lenses. You mentioned multiple times what kind of lenses work there, and how to mount them and not mount them, and even how actually one thing that I think is always interesting for people that are maybe new to a system is seeing how the bayonet looks.
Yeah.
Because you might be at your Kamerastore and you ask them and maybe they don't know, or you're at a flea market, you can just check the bayonet and be like, okay, if the lens has this bayonet, it will work on my X700 back home.
Yeah.
So that's worth a look, at least, in my opinion. We'll try to link it somewhere.
Yeah, that's how I
find
always test people. If they're like, oh, I know all the mounts, I just will show them the back of a bayonet and be like, well, what is this? And it's like,
Good training.
Pentax K, there's a little, it's fine.
Yeah, there's a little like
tons of there's ways
like a
that you
little
can
ramp.
tell everything.
Yeah. You learn. Okay, we have Katrin Wacht. Which camera is the most difficult to repair?
One that you're not trained to repair.
This is like another question for mechanics, but we'll
Yeah.
try to answer without them because we don't want to disturb them too much. Cameras that are most difficult to repair. There's different trends on the way mechanics were made throughout different countries. So I've heard Tony, our mechanic, say many times that Japanese made cameras in a very easy to service way. So like Nikons and things like that are very Mamiya. Like it was like a drop-in, almost like a drop-in replacement. And then, for example, Germans, depending on the models, they're completely almost like artisan made and very complex to fix because they're kind of like, they can kind of go in these three different positions, and this screw has like a little like adjustment lever, but it's like literally loose. So I've heard like the Conta Flex, isn't it? What is it? The Conta
Rex.
That one's
Yes.
I've heard is very complicated to repair. I've heard Bronicas are very well known to be very complex to repair. Like you just remove the side panel and look up Bronicas like the ECTL or something like that, and it's just like a jumbo mumbo of like gears. But we are not mechanics, so that's a good question to ask our team, and we can probably try to make a quick reel for that question for this because we can throw our mechanics like just put a camera on their face.
Yeah, they
and
love
ask
to
them.
be on camera.
Yeah, they're made for being on camera. But yeah, we will ask them. But yeah, the most difficult depends. Usually, also, plastic era when the trend of consumerism went from let's make things to last as long as possible because maybe the lack of knowledge of materials or maybe just because they made things to last forever. When that started to die off and we started to bring in the plastic and things that were made to be replaced X amount of times in a life cycle of a person, I guess a life, then that got really complicated. So point and shoots were not made to be open 10 times.
True.
Maybe they were just meant to be open like one time in a certain area. So that stuff also is not great.
Yeah, getting them back together if they were held together by like a snap instead of a screw is like
And
so
the
much harder.
plastic gets brittle and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, let's move to the next one. We have Rizke. I don't know how to say that. What do you think about the Konica dual 21 to 35 millimeter lens for Leica M? Cool or nah? You're a Leica user.
Yeah, I'm the biggest Leica user in the store, and I'll write that down. Yeah, it's like kind of fun, I guess.
I mean, this is funny because Jason from Grainy Days had this lens in Germany when I was there, and he just made a video about the lens. So if you don't know what this is, Leica lenses traditionally are fixed, so they're primes, so a 21 mil or 35 mil, 50 mil, 90 mil lens.
No zooms.
No
ever.
zooms because it's a
It doesn't
rangefinder.
really work like that,
So the rangefinder gives you frame lines, which are giving you an approximation of what the lens will see when it's taking a picture. You're not seeing through the lens. And zooms, obviously, there's no frame lines that you zoom in and out. It's not so simple, even though Contax G2 did a pretty good job there.
Yeah, it actually does do it like exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, well,
But that's not really a rangefinder.
yeah, it's kind of a weird, it's a rangefinder. But what they did with the Konica 21 to 35 is Leica also has their zoom lens, and they have like a viewfinder that has like different options.
Yeah.
Is it cool or not? I mean, if you really want a zoom lens, I would just say get a camera that can accept them easily. So like a SLR, DSLR, something like that. I like my primes on rangefinders.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's like a cool engineering thing, but like the versatility that a zoom lens would give you is kind of lost because it's not a zoom lens, it's one or the other. And like the fiddliness of having to carry around extra viewfinders and
Well, the viewfinder's a chunk. It's like the size of this Kodak truck that's here.
yeah.
And also another thing is usually primes are optimized because they're primes, and zooms have to make some compromises. So probably, I don't know if this lens is amazing or not, but probably it might be worse than a 21 on its own and a 35 on its own and a 28 on its own.
Probably.
But then it's 3 lenses in one. So you can choose.
The Konica is 2. The Leica has they have a tri-Elmar. That's 3.
Is it 18, 21, and 35?
18. I have no idea.
I have no idea.
The Leica one is 3.
We're the
different
experts,
lenses,
but
yeah.
we don't really know. It's not a normal lens to see. So
Yeah.
I guess they sold very little, so I guess it's not cool because of that. Colin Cornell, do you sell or repair Widelux cameras?
We sell them when they come in. Yeah, as with everything, we pretty much will sell it if it works. It just depends on if people sell them to us. We're sort of dependent in that sense on the gear that's available to us. And yeah, I think we have a Widelux, the medium format one, on the website right now.
We have the medium format one. We've had a couple F6Bs and F7s and maybe an F8 not so long ago. We do, when they need a little cleaning, we do that. I've seen Tony clean them, and the way they work and the barrel and everything is he like can clean it.
Yeah.
But the adjustments and repairs for Widelux cameras are very specialized, and we're not specialized in that realm. So I'd say we probably won't say it's repaired because we don't really have the know-how or the spare parts, but we will test it and we will try to sell it with that knowledge of it, does it work or not. And these cameras are precisely really complicated to repair and test in the sense that you don't use a shutter sensor like we have a Kyoritsu for the normal shutters. So Connor just actually made an article about how this works, and you just have to throw a roll inside and shoot a white wall and see if there's differences between the... It's a complex camera mechanism, even though they're kind of simple also. But yeah, we do sell them. We don't really fully repair them. And when we can, we test them with a roll of film and say, roll test it if possible, but it's not always possible. Then we have JNA Berle, or JNAB, I don't know. Best camera to learn camera repair.
I would say, and the line that we've been told is one that you don't mind breaking. The way that camera repair works is, even if you learn to fully disassemble one model and reassemble it and adjust everything, you find the service manual, whatever, that's that one model. And then there's 15 other models, even from the same manufacturer, that aren't going to be the same inside. So if you learn one model, you've learned just that one model.
And also, you need testing equipment to make sure that whatever you put together works like it should.
Yeah.
Because one of the common things that you see is, if it looks like it's moving, it's okay. And that's not precise. So shutters tend to be 1 stop, 1.5 stop out of alignment. And lenses, calibration for lenses, not so simple. Between f8 and f5.6, you should see the apertures. They're like almost nothing difference, depending on the lens. So I'd say best camera to learn repair, like Connor said, if you really want to get into your hands into this, buy a very inexpensive camera that you don't mind buying 5 or 10 of them, that you can break 100 times over and over. Try to get a shutter tester. Right now there's one on, I think it's Kickstarter from Verveni Labs, which I haven't tested. I can't tell you it's accurate or not, but something that can tell you if the aperture is opening fully, if the shutter's not bouncing, things like that. And hopefully you don't destroy those cameras, and you will some of them, and then try to learn that. But our usual advice is try to find someone that can teach you. And if you can't find someone that can teach you and you're very stubborn, you can probably self-teach yourself. But like Connor said, like the differences between models and brands, like you will not learn all brands ever. Like nobody probably will. So yeah, I don't know which one would be best to learn. Probably not a Soviet camera because they weren't made with the best tolerances. Probably some Japanese or German camera that you can find plentiful and cheap.
Yeah, relatively inexpensive. Companies like Canon, maybe.
And no
I've seen it.
electronics if you can.
Yeah.
Maybe Spotmatics or something like that. I don't
yeah,
know. I'm not a mechanic again, so don't ask us. We can also make a reel on that one. The mechanics will probably throw a camera at us when we ask that. John Radio, are you going to have mystery boxes for sale this year?
No.
No.
We never really had mystery boxes. We had outlet boxes at one point, which were boxes full of...
Mysteries.
Well, you knew what you were getting, you just didn't know the condition, so it's a mystery in a sense. But we're not doing that anymore. We're selling all of those items on the site individually with the faults listed. Because the thing was, all of the outlet gear that people bought in boxes like that had been tested. It had gone through the effort of our technicians figuring out what the condition was. So all that effort was sort of thrown out the window when we sold it sight unseen. So now we're selling them on the site for a significant discount as not passed. So you can go on the site and you'll see that orange label that says not passed. That's the outlet stuff.
I mean, it's not completely wrong. There's also the idea that a lot of the stuff was just not worth it and we're throwing it to recycling. That's still maintained. So I think the outlet is not 100% the not passed. It's 80, 90% the same. There's a percentage of things that we just keep for spares. There's a percentage of stuff that has like, if anything has like huge battery corrosion or things like that. So our not passed has become what we call usable with some minor or bigger issue.
Yeah.
So for example, if one shutter speed is 2 stops too fast or 2 stops too slow, that's kind of like a not passed. And what would happen is, and the reason we changed this is not only the testing was getting like basically erased when we threw them on the outlet and then you would get a mystery box like you mentioned, but also a lot of our own staff were picking the cameras and shooting them like, I don't mind if the rewind lever is broken off and I can just rewind with some, pliers. And that made us think like, wait, if us as workers of the store are okay with shooting these, let's give the customer the choice. So you now have the choice to buy lenses that maybe have oily apertures, slight haze more than usual, maybe a little bit of like a little spore of fungus here and there, maybe a zoom lens that doesn't have AF working, like all these things that we were basically giving away for the price of the shipping, which was the mystery boxes.
Yeah.
Now we give you the option of being, you know what, I don't mind a lens that maybe has sticky apertures, I'm adapting it for video, or I'm shooting a Helios lens, I will never stop it down.
Yeah.
Things like this. So that's what the outlet boxes or mystery boxes like you called them have turned into the not passed.
Yeah, and I think that going back to the last question, that works really well with people that want to sort of get into this DIY disassembly and attempting to learn at least the hand part of camera repair where you're disassembling things and cleaning things and that stuff. This the not passed items are again very cheap and they have issues that you know about beforehand.
Yeah.
So you get a camera, you know the shutter doesn't work properly, then you can try to fix it.
I mean, I've bought stuff from the not passed that I see that has like big haze inside and the lens is too cheap for us to open, that I will open on the side and clean and see if I can fix it. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I don't. But that's what not passed is for. And also things that we can't fully test, like we were talking about the Widelux earlier. If we don't have the tools to test the camera, that happens especially with Super 8 and 16mm cameras, motion picture. We don't have the tools to check them. We're like, hey, look, this is like, we can't say if it works or not. It looks okay. And we sell it, like Connor said, at a big discount. You can buy it and try your luck. Obviously, sometimes you'll get lucky and sometimes you won't. But the things that are checked and we have issues, you can maybe, like work around them to keep shooting. And like I said, we all have cameras from the outlet or the outlet that we shoot. I have a Minolta that has a blue viewfinder that's kind of ugly, but it works. I have a T90 Canon that has like half the LEDs are dead, but it works. Like things like this, you will get as a good deal. And it reduces the waste of us throwing it, and it makes you have cheaper options. It is a bummer, but cameras, we sometimes joke around that our not passed is almost the equivalent of the online purchasing you can do in certain places. And I don't think we're completely wrong. The stuff that we say is good should be good, and we stand behind that because it's being tested. Obviously, cameras can always break at any time, but sadly, that's the reality of film cameras. Yeah. Okay, we have Toonie Collage. why the self-timer on old cameras is the first thing to break?
This is another one that we're gonna bring in a special guest mechanic to give you an answer.
Most likely only seems that way because it's an easy fault to diagnose and like realize that there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
So the camera itself is most likely needing service anyway, but that's kind of the first symptom that you notice that something is wrong.
Yeah, we've mentioned in the other questions we've had that one stop too fast or one stop too slow on a shutter is something that the user won't notice.
Yeah, it's very hard to.
Color negative, and nowadays that most people are scanning, the scanner technology is like fixing that compensation.
Yeah.
So it's making it not look like a major issue. There's the physical, things that will stop you from shooting that you notice, and that might be, like you say, the self-timer is probably not the first thing to go out, but it's the first one you notice.
Yeah.
I think another one that I noticed as a user, not so much as a worker here at the Kamerastore, is the 1 second speed. Is the classic that you shoot a 1 second and you're like, okay, that does not sound like 1 second.
Yeah.
So maybe, don't trust that your camera works just because you think it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually those like longest times and the self-time that is most easily detectable.
Yeah, and like light meter is another thing that you don't really have a way to know if the light meter is off by, I mean, if it's off by like 6 stops, you probably will notice.
Yeah.
But if it's off by like a fraction of a stop and a half, you might think your camera's all perfectly working, and then, it's off and you didn't know.
Wow, thanks for that. We'll see you again soon. He's just leaving.
Yep. We have the next question. Calling Weber Photography. Do you know of any classes in the UK to learn camera repair similar to yours?
So this is in response to, we have an ongoing class of camera technicians going on right now.
Not camera repairs.
Yeah, that's a very important distinction. You can see more details on that on the Camera Rescue Instagram if you want. You will be posting about it quite often, I assume. Yeah, we've run for 3 years now a class for camera technicians. Different than mechanics, different than camera repairs. Technicians learn the foundation of it all. They learn testing, they learn cleaning, they learn checking. And the people that excel in those classes are hired to work with us full time. They do that for, there's no set amount of time, but if they show promise, pass some mechanical tests, and excel in our company, then they're given an opportunity to do an apprenticeship, sort of, with one of our master mechanics, where they can learn directly from a master. And yeah, we found that to be the best way to train actual mechanics, and it takes years, 6 months of the school, and then at least a year of being a technician before you can even be tested. So the answer is no. We don't know any repair classes anywhere, and we don't know of any technician classes either, anywhere in the world that offer what we are able to offer.
No, we don't know about like exactly what we do, because like Connor said, what we're doing is at a scale maybe that's a little different. But you can try following mechanics or repair stores in the UK in this case, or your country of choice. And you can just ask, you can go visit them and talk to them, be like, hey, I would love to be here and learn if possible. If you're finding into the older generation that is retiring or should have retired and is not because there's nobody else to take over, that you might find a lot of, not friendly people in the sense that they maybe don't want to teach, or they've done this before and they've taught people and it hasn't worked out as well as they want, because this takes a lot of patience and a lot of humbleness. Like, you have to be humble in that you can't walk in thinking, it's simple, I can do this, without thinking, I did my radio or my toaster at home, I can do a camera. Because a lot of times we've had mechanics that have come like that and they've had to like unlearn to relearn, and it's very complicated. So I would say do that, try it out, see if you find somebody. I know, for example, PPP in the UK learned on his own and then finally found a master to like take him under and help him learn. And he told us, like he told me at the UK fair, we were there a couple of years ago, like he had just filled all the voids. He knew they were there, but he needed somebody like, further explain. So it is very valuable if you find somebody like this. Obviously, we would love to have international classes, but it's very complicated, especially the UK now is not part of Europe. So bringing somebody over, it's like a working visa. And, you know, obviously we don't know if you're good or not, so we can't really just fully employ you. It's complicated. But yeah, try something like that, and hopefully you'll find somebody. I've seen a couple opening positions. I think one in the US was looking for somebody to train. I think there's Linhof Munich is looking for mechanics already, but obviously you can't just find a mechanic. Maybe watchmakers and stuff like that can help. Like they're already kind of like in that mentality.
Yeah.
But, you know, just keep trying. Don't give up. And also remember that camera mechanic is not exactly like a posh job. Like it's dirty, it's gritty, it's attention to detail, it's a lot of silence and concentration. So,
and especially with film cameras, it's not a lot of money.
No,
there's not that much profit to be had,
and the spare parts are scarce, and you know there's a lot of down things that, and we don't want to be Debbie Downers with camera repairs, but it is not easy. I mean, we have 40 plus people currently in the store, and it's not easy to do this on a daily basis. But if you really want to, go ahead and keep going at it. We have EDC Addict, Everyday Carry Addict, I guess. What do you think using the Minolta Dynax 7 or 9 SI, XI, I don't know, you know about Minolta cameras, Connor.
Yeah,
considering they are quite cheap but not repairable or something like a point and shoot, why not for street photography?
Why not for street photography? Yeah, I mean, I think why not for any kind of photography? That's the beauty of the Minolta Dynax range and almost every plastic autofocus SLR is that they have so many different automatic modes and manual modes and settings you can change and things that weren't available on old mechanical cameras that you can pretty much do anything with them. And if you have a Canon, you can get modern lenses that still work. The same with some Nikons. There's some compatibility issues, but Minolta is probably the cheapest one to get into. Those SI and XI models have some features that are nicer than the original line, but aren't quite the newest line. So kind of middle children. Some nice features if you want like a power zoom, or some of them have some like snap focus kind of things that they can do with the power zoom lenses. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
The cards, the creative cards.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I think what he says about considering they're quite cheap but not repairable is something like a point and shoot. That is something I've told people. So people are getting scared about certain cameras because of their failure rate. There's obviously internet rumors and internet talks about, you know, this camera, that camera will break, and then it's a brick. Any camera that you're okay because of price or features to use till it basically dies on your hands, and you can leave it aside. Maybe one day someone decides to invest their energy to figure out how to fix them, and just buy another one. I highly recommend it. Like, if it really is a camera that brings you joy, that is helping you take your photography to the place you want to go, just go ahead and do it. I used to be the one that was like, no electronic cameras, I don't want to have them. But nowadays I'm coming to the choice of like, it really was an amazing camera. Do I pick it up again? And if it breaks, I just buy another one.
Yeah.
And for that example, to me, that camera would be the Zeiss Icon ZM. It's a Leica M mount camera made by Carl Zeiss, has aperture priority, and it's a camera that will break and then there might be no repairs, but it's such a great camera, and aperture priority on a Leica M is really fun. And I will probably pick up one at some point and keep it till it breaks and then pick a second one up. They're not cheap, but like I said, if you're okay with assuming the cost of it breaking on you, then go ahead. And especially something like a Dynax is probably affordable.
Yeah. When the cost of it breaking is like 40 euros, like what do you have to lose, kind of?
I mean, 40 euros is in many places a dinner on a weekend, so on your own. So consider it. But like I said, depends on your budget. If your budget is 40 euros is a month allowance, maybe not worth it for you. But if you are, you know, everybody has different budgets, so consider that. But I think it's worth it to reconsider these cameras that people are like not looking into, like the plastic SLRs, as great cameras when they work. And if they don't, just pick another one. And this happened with the Nikon F80, the Nikon F100 used to be very affordable, and they've gone up as people have noticed that they're really good and they're cheap-ish because an F6.
What you're getting for 500 with a F100 is objectively a lot more camera than what you get for 500 for a Nikon F3. Like, you just get so much more capabilities in terms of the matrix metering, automated film advance, program mode, autofocus.
I mean, the metering, like I developed some film the other day from, I think it was a Leica M roll, and my exposure is okay, but you know, you can see it jumping up and down.
Yeah.
And then I developed something from the Canon 300V, and it's like every photo is perfect.
Yeah.
And then from there, obviously, as a creative choice, I put it in the enlarger or in the scanner, and I can play around. I can bring contrast up, I can do stuff like that, like I would do in the darkroom. But if you start with a negative that is too thin or too dense because your camera is not, or your metering is not great because you're using a manual experience, then maybe it's great to have a plastic fantastic camera.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good thing to consider, especially, you know, film prices are pretty high for a lot of people. So if you get more exposures correct with an autofocus camera and a more automatic camera, then that might be the way to go.
Yep. Okay, on to our last question. Jane Ranta, we have, what is the best photo deal you have ever found? I found a Canon at 28 in great condition with flash for $5 at a recycling center. And also a 5-euro Olympus AF Mini Infinity that only has broken battery door. Well, you've already mentioned your Canon F1.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I actually wasn't going to talk about that one because
Okay.
it's not like a deal. Like I got it for free.
That's
I got a really crusty Canon F1 for free at a fair. Yeah, me and my partner negotiated with the guy, and he
I
was
was
like,
there.
"Just take it."
Yeah.
But when I was in college, I got really lucky. I found like more than 5 Olympus XAs working properly for €5 each. And that was when I had sort of just started shooting film. And a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, well, can I try? Can I like play?" And I would just like give one to them. And I gave out XAs, and a bunch of them still have the camera, which is really cool. Yeah, those times are over.
They're not fully over. You can still find a lot of deals. I mean, obviously people know more about the prices of cameras, so that obviously has made it harder.
Yeah.
I don't know what my best deals could be. Probably, I've been shooting film again because I was shooting film back in the day for 10, 12 years. So I've bought the Muse for €5, Mew 2s for €10, stuff like that. I think my best deal has been mostly holding on to my gear, and after years it's like gone up in value. Like I bought my Mamiya 7 II for €1,000 back in the day, but I never felt it's right to try to get a steal. Like I bought large format lenses recently for very affordable prices. I think large format has a very narrow amount of people that understand what is good or not, so you can get good deals there. But yeah, I don't think I have a super specific deal.
Yeah.
I had a friend sell me their Hasselblad and scanner for €250, and it was an Epson V750. That was a great deal, but that was a friend being too good of a friend. But yeah, I guess the best deals are when we go into the outlet and we pick stuff out. Back in the day,
That's true.
we've had nice cameras from there.
One time in college, me and my friend drove down to a tiny camera repair shop that I guess is definitely now closed because the guy was like contemplating retirement even then, almost 10 years ago. God, I'm old. And he walked out with a Rolleicord, my friend, and I walked out with a Kodak Retina 3C small c, and I think we paid a combined $70 US. And they were
pretty good
both
deal.
serviced. Like he was like a repair guy.
Yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, cameras were very affordable compared to today, even though today they're still a fraction of the price they would be if they were sold now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think deals are still there. You just have to take your patience and maybe not pick the camera you want, just pick the deal if it's a deal. And open your spectrum. Like the battery door that's broken, we talked about the not passed. We have these all the time.
easy.
Like Yashica T4s with broken battery door. It's like, okay, instead of 500, 600, we got to put them at like 300 or 250 because just some gaffer tape and go shoot. This stuff happens all the time. And yeah, usually go looking where nobody else is looking, and that's where you find most deals.
Or just go consistently.
Yeah,
I
or
mean,
be
I
consistent.
go to secondhand stores like every weekend, and I've bought so many ugly point and shoots. But then every once in a while, you find a Olympus Mew, and that's your reward.
One that I love and I bought recently is the Samsung AF Slim. No, what's the name of the AF Slim Samsung one? It's like Samsung Slim or something like that.
I think it's AF
Yeah.
Slim.
But the golden and like nacre, like the what's the name of that?
It's like ivory.
Ivory.
It's like white.
Yeah.
Like an off-white.
Nagar in Spanish, I think. But yeah, it's like an off-white. That camera is basically the same as the Konica A4-ish.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, super tacky, but I bought them for like $10 and they work great. And it's a really reliable until it breaks point and shoot. So yeah, those are probably the best deals we found, but plenty of deals we see. Not that many at work, obviously, because we work at a camera store, so we have to pay the prices that we end up putting. But
Yeah.
we do have a slight discount, which is good. But yeah, that's been the Q&A. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for the mechanics for joining and answering some of the questions. If you want to see more of their intake input, let us know. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear because they get, shy on camera. But yeah, next Thursday we will put a, ask us anything on Instagram, and obviously on the YouTube comments you can leave a comment from the day we publish this video, and we'll try to find it and put it into a Q&A the next time.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.
Bye.